What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Thursday here. Getting back into the season. We're getting into April already, Craig. Pretty quick. Pretty quick.
Yeah.
Better start dialing for dollars. That's what we're going to be talking about today. How to get past the gatekeeper. Sometimes that's the key to the success on key accounts. I think today we got to talk about two different types, right? Craig, in your world, you guys, you got guys calling employers, right? You're going direct to some of the employers. Yeah. You've had good old Jerry, who's one of the best out there calling, right? And he's calling key accounts, right? You're kind of pre-identified them, and you're looking at it more of, right? They say identify 100, like the HubSpot. You can have key companies that you're targeting and getting all the contacts at different companies. And then there's just, kind of the speed dial ones where you're just sticking them in a dialer and you're trying to get through and get information. So, you really got to decide what market you're in and who you're trying to target necessarily, who you're calling, because there's different ways to go about it. We'll talk a little bit about it today in both, That being said, show sponsor, Virtue Health. Check us out, virtuealliance.com. Going to be doing another webinar coming out next month. Some exciting ones, some new sales strategies, as always, bring you some new ideas. Share with you some of what other advisors in the countries are doing to win business, because some guys are just killing it right now.
Some people writing business?
Yeah, people, you'd be surprised. And look, Hunters Clubs, we're going to be rerunning them every Friday. And some people closing business, some people aren't. Obviously, marketing. I mean, there's no secret to it. But you're going to go through, the pendulum swings like we always say. So there's going to be some downtime. There's going to be some times where you're hot as can be. You're the hot chick at the bar.
I would have to say this year is better than last year already. Yeah, the employers seem to be more open to the idea of we need to do something.
Yeah, I wonder if that has to do with inflation, right? And so they're getting squeezed from every angle. I did some, retail meetings, and they're screaming at me on healthcare, and they're saying, this is crazy. I go, well, inflation's 30 to 50% everywhere else. What did you think it was going to be on healthcare? And, we did the whole dancing game of fully insured carrier, because this group will not go self-funding. And we're still able to get them down to, I think, negative, and they're still fighting me. Again, they're asking for more. And I'm just like, you guys are you're out of reality, but thank you. We're doing that. So back to
I just saw a report from McKinsey last night. They expect medical inflation to be 10.9% to 2027. That's the most realistic number I've seen from anybody.
Yeah, when we look back at the other numbers, they project them 7.5%, and that's across the board.
Yeah. When you start doing 10, though, John, brokers, you guys need to clue in. Rule of 72. Just ask the person you're talking to, what kind of an impact is it going to have on the business, your boss, and your job security when your healthcare budget doubles in 6 years?
Great idea. How about you create a slide? I just thinking this, and maybe we'll create it. Margot's listening. Margot, make a note. We got to create it. The rule of 72. How many years does it take for your healthcare to double? You want to scare an employer? Mr. Employer. And you can have a couple slides ready. You can have like a thing that we're a slider. Maybe we'll put it on our new site we're developing. How many years will it take for your healthcare rates to double? Rule of 72.
I've seen guys selling 10-year plans out there, right, John? Other guys selling 5. Well, damn it, use the dang thing and just go, look, your budget is 10 million, and it's going to be 15 million in 5 or 20 million in 10. How are you going to pay for that?
Yeah, we had an employer on the call yesterday, an employer call with a school system, which I don't like, but he told me it was 15% and self-funding scary. 300 employees, $8.5 million spend. But it's scary, and at least with Blue Cross, it's predictable, and all these good fun stuff. So I go, let me see if I hear you correct. It was fun. It was a fun call, because I knew from the beginning he just wouldn't get it. Unfortunately, I feel it for the broker, but he gets it. So what you're saying is that 15% every year is safe to you. It's predictable, and you're okay with that every year, because if it's worse than that, then you're in trouble, right? And so, no, that's not what I mean. Talking out of both sides of their mouth. But it's interesting employers like to talk out of both sides of their mouth, as we do as people often, right? Even as salespeople. And so
because the brokers are afraid to challenge them most of the time.
you have to put the mirror up in front of their face, right? And if they don't like you, fine. They don't buy from you, they don't like you. They don't want to come to reality with what you told them. And so they're never going to come to reality if you never mention it. And if you let them to continue to believe what they believe, and that was my fight with the employers, is you've got to, it kept going back to, well, we'll look at it again. We can do the raise. I go, but you're not understanding. If you're not going to focus on the claims and looking to manage healthcare over time, then this is a waste of everybody's time. You're asking me, can you go back next year? And it's all about the premiums, right? Isn't that the whole game? He said. I says, well, anyhow, I'm not going to go all the information and the discussion, but again, challenge the employer on the things that they say. And here's a way you can do it: is visuals, and go, well, let's take a look at that. If you had 10%, I mean, because you just pin them in a corner. They pin themselves in a corner every time.
They pin themselves, right? If you ask good questions.
Yeah. And then you can just pull up the slide. I got 50 slides that I go to and go, well, let's take a look at that. That's interesting. Every time I have a call or at night, when I'm thinking about stuff, I think of a slide, right? Craig sent me his slide deck. And it was like 500 slides. You got to have them in your arsenal where you can pop them up and go, let's look at that. Because the more experience you get, instead of just a pitch, you get to use those, you get to pivot and use those slides and go, okay, 15%, let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Here's what it looks like. Anyhow, Gatekeepers. Are we going to the key accounts? Well, let's go to the volume first, right? In the volume game, and we were teaching our SDRs, talking to our SDRs today about this, is your goal is to set the meeting. It's not to answer any questions. It's not to sell them on anything other than the meeting, right? And so getting around the gatekeeper, little information as possible. The goal is to get through the gatekeeper, right? And so I'll give you what my old telemarketer, when I started a business, he was just phenomenal. It's a psychology game. If you follow, actually, I'm not going to mention names because I'm not giving all the good guys out there. Maybe we'll have him speak at the conference in August. But he talks about is stop sounding like a salesman. And I have to remind myself to do this even on the employer calls, where I get excited and I try to be nice and I go, "What are you doing? You sound like a desperate salesman. Just get on there and don't give a shit." Because I'm at the point in my career where I don't give a shit. So it's easier for me to do. But if you're not and you're needy, they can see it and you sound like a salesman. So sound less like that, like you're calling your friend. Hey, can I speak to Bob? Who's calling? John. John who? Or John, where are you calling from? John's office, right? Friend of Bob. Whatever. My old guy would say, it's Martin. Martin who? Or where are you calling from, Martin? Martin Andrews' office, right? I'll hold while you connect us. Boom. Psychology. They never heard that, but you speak like an authority and like an attorney, right? If you talk to an attorney, that's how they sound. They feel like they're better than you and they're higher you, and because they're held to a higher status, a doctor, attorney, because of their title. They get treated that way, and so that's just naturally how they act in real life. And that's just how they sound normally. Well, salespeople know that, hey, I got to be nice and this and gimmicky and this and that to get through because I'm a salesperson and I'm beneath them. No, you're not. You're an expert consultant that probably makes more money than them, is better than them. So you need to start maybe acting like that in your voice. And so this is John. I'm calling from John Sbrocco's office, right? And so that was a way that really worked efficiently. And there's so many other ways. We don't have time to go into all of them. But sales psychology, the gatekeeper is on an automated mode, right? They're answering the phone. Boom, 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 boom. They're answering the phone. Your goal is just to get past that person. And so you got to trick them a little bit and short circuit their brain with certain things that you do. And that's what he was really good at. And one was, Bobbin, where are you calling from? Is Martin, where are you calling from? Martin Andrews' office. And then she say, da-da-da-da. And he say, I'll hold while you connect us. Boom. Right? That's an authority speaking, and they kind of short circuits their brain to where they just a certain amount of times are just going to put you through, right? Because Craig, they're in automation mode, right? They're just auto responder mode. I mean, even rebuttal wise, it takes sometimes 2-3 rebuttals. I used to sit in the basement when I started. I listened to my telemarketer. I was in every single call. So I felt like a telemarketer, even though I wasn't making the calls. And you would hear the autoresponder go off, and he'd fight 2-3 times to get through till they listened, turd him, and then he would get through. Again, not to say it's easy, but when you're doing this into a vacuum, you've got to find a more efficient way to do it than just a traditional way, because people are calling and they can tell. You could tell instantly if it's a sales call, right? I mean,
nowadays it's because of the 3-second delay while the software program connects it to the actual business development rep, and if there's a 3-second pause, hang up, because that's spam.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting harder and harder, guys, especially if you're calling cell phones, right? You might go into Zoom, you go into these platforms, Seamless.ai, Zoom Info, all these guys, and we could talk about that. Is getting to the direct number. When is the best time to get around these? Well, early in the morning, late at night, because the gatekeeper's not there, right? If I call you guys, I call you early in the morning or late at night, you're probably working, right? The bosses, the executives are working at a different time than the gatekeepers. So is there a best time to call? A lot of people argue no. I would argue sometimes it's just better to call at the hours that the gatekeepers aren't there to get around them.
Hey, John.
Less hoops to run through. Go ahead.
Best ninja move I heard of. Once you know how the phone system works, call somebody's extension that's wrong and ask them to connect you. There's no screening when you do that.
So you're saying whose connection is wrong?
So you know how their phone system works, right? You got to dial, you look up a different executive, whatever, somebody you think you can get through to, the operations manager, and you call the ops manager and they pick up and they go, "Hi, I'm looking, this is John for Frank." "No, I'm sorry, you've reached Sally's extension." "Oh, I must have fat thumbs or something. Can you connect me?" And you just eliminate all the screening.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many little ways to get sophisticated, and if you're doing calling, some advisors are, some are hiring. Help your people that are calling, because they're not going to be able to figure it out. Your job, even as mine is my callers, is my job is to figure out how for them to be more efficient for different ways. You got to listen to calls, you got to do training with them, and the more efficient you can make it, the more connects they're going to make to lead to more appointments, right? Because the hardest thing in telemarketing is getting the person on the phone. That is a challenge, right? How many pitches can I get a day, right? We're trying to measure the dials, the connects, how many conversations, and then look at how many are closed. But right, you're reverse engineering it, but the calls to connections, right, to then connections to conversations is the real answer. Is okay, how do we get these up? Because I got a guy that's good, but I sat in an office with a gentleman in recent years, and he just can't get people on the phone sometimes. He's got nobody to pitch all day. It's frustrating. And so any way you can do that and optimize that, the conversion's just going to go up, obviously. So those are things to figure out even in advance to the gatekeeper. I think that Craig, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, brokers need to understand, hey, we keep visiting this because, everything's on a continuum. So yeah, we want you to do speaking gigs, but you know what? That conference isn't for 75 days in Washington, D.C. What, you going to do nothing between now and then? You got the whatever kind of speaking gigs, those are scheduled throughout the year, right? And then you have maybe email campaigns you're doing, and maybe you're doing direct mail, right? We keep visiting this particular technique because it's the fastest way to cash. And for most brokers, that's why I keep telling you, because I used to be you. Okay. I was a shiny object guy. So I've learned. So when I tell you to stop studying new shit, 36 years I've been in healthcare, there's shiny shit every year. It doesn't do a damn thing. It just distracts you. What you need to do is get really good at getting in front of more people and talking to more people. And that's it. You already know more than enough. Today, right now, more than 99% of everybody you're going to talk to. And yet the industry keeps you distracted with, well, you need this. Oh, you need that. You need that. No, you don't. This is just the fastest way. You should focus all of your energy on what's the highest activity I can do to increase the frequency of my cash flow. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's those that are listening. We're going back to the basics. We talked about that, and we're going to probably put a lot of these into our video program and really just focus on basics again. and go through them in the shows, because when you go back to the basics, this is what it's going to do for you to be successful. We got to constantly be reminded of it. Okay. And, when you get further down your career, you have more credibility. Things get easier to close. I still not a referral guy. I don't think the referrals come in our business. Some people may be very good at it. That was never my forte. Speaking events are great. You got to be able to get somebody to help you get people there. Maybe create a center of influences where you could collectively bring in your clients to quarterly events to deliver value, right? That's what we try to do, is deliver you value, get you to an event. You don't want to come to my event to hear me pitch Virtue Health. No, you want to come to my event to learn how to close more sales, how to market and close more sales to grow your business. And you're going to like us for helping you with that. Maybe you give us a shot and opportunities on your cases. That's the goal. So in a speaking event, how many people can you get there by delivering them value to them, personal development, their businesses, and then obviously you're going to develop relationships with them. But cold calling, if you're going to go on your own, if you're trying to drum something up, it's the fastest way to success. I'll argue that with anybody, right? Some people, it takes time to develop that rainmaker, that a client, a center of influence, that's going to be a rainmaker for you in your career and can have a significant difference. I had a CFO, it was $100,000 difference in my business just the first time I did an event with them. But that takes time to come. So if you're newer, you got to be picking up the phone because you got nothing but time, right? Get kicked in the mouth a little bit.
I have to study the new CAA regs. Yeah, I need to know. I need to know all 76 pages of that PDF.
When I switched over to wholesale, I realized that the people that like me, that was trying to be the smartest, and I was really intelligent and understanding the process and that and self-funding, I wasn't as successful as the other advisors revenue-wise because they were just really better at getting in front of people. While I was good too, fortunately, I had somebody that was good that I hired, but I could have been doing it even more and focusing on prospecting even more. But back to Gatekeepers, have a script, have your team have a script to dance around things. I had a phenomenal telemarketer, and he had a script, which I call the ledge. If you get lost, you go back to it. And then he would have what I would call the punchlines, right? The rebuttals. He literally had it on his desk in front of it on the doors here. He had the yellow sticky notes. He'd have, 30 or 40 of them up there. And anytime he'd hear me use a good sizzle line, he had it. Oh, let me write it down, put it up there. And each stand, he'd make his call and poof, 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 just punch him right back on the objections to utilize that. So help them with that, because the objections are going to happen. You may want to take a Google sheet, have them write down the objections on one column, and then you're going to go back and fill in on the right the answer to those objections, and you can push to the top the most frequent objections so they can start getting better and building their subconscious, and they'll always have that open to go back to, right? You can use, I'm not going to go into this one, but again, we talk about calling about different times, being persistent, right? Obviously, that's the key. You're just going to call over and over until they tell
but be creative.
Get lost,
right? Be creative. Look, if at the same time, John's putting one angle of the gatekeeper. The other angle is, hey man, this is the most important access point to this executive that exists. So how can you make him or her more significant? How can you make them look good in their job? How can you make it fun? Be creative? Have some M&Ms made with that company's logo, not yours. They don't give a rip about you. Put the company's logo on some M&Ms. Get a big giant chocolate foot and have some fun with it and send it to her and go, we're just trying to get our foot in the door. Look, we love our business. We love our company. We know that what we can do can really help people. We like helping people, and you look like our ideal client, so we're not giving up, right? And you can just match whoever you are, whatever style you like. But for God's sake, be creative. Know what you're going to leave as a voice message. Don't wing it. Like John said, have scripts. Scripts create consistency.
And that's, I didn't go to that yet. And that's kind of the key account world of, if you're going to target key accounts, you got to do some research. You can hire, people out of any other countries, Colombia, Argentina, Philippines, to help you gather data on these individuals. I would have my telemarketer or assistants write this up before I would go on meetings. But if you're going to You're going to do some research. Craig is targeting key accounts. You're trying to get information on that individual and get creative on developing that list, especially if you're calling them, you've had contact with them, the renewals later, it's not the right time. Now you want to gather some information and kind of target those people to get into. If you're in a market where there's key accounts that you want, spend the money on those once you get them and have them as actual prospects. Right now, in the volume side, they're more suspects. We have no idea who they are and what they are. But once you qualify them as a prospect, you can get creative. You can try to find mutual connections, referrals, anything and everything you could think of. Again, not saying you should do it. Pay somebody to help you with it. Because
you can do a lot. You can do a lot. 23 years ago, John, when DVDs were just like the new thing, not CDs, DVDs, I hired a marketing company. This is 2000. I hired a marketing company, and we did filming because I did webinars every month at the best private club in Orange County, and we did testimonial interviews and we had this DVD with chapters on it. So you wanted to know about our company? Here's the, ultimate new techie way to do it. I even had songs written. We had funny songs, and I would send out in a box that looked like a giant logo of our company, a DVD player with a cover letter and the DVD in a special enclosure, rated R for real. I remember it said, and there's a reason that I had a 7-figure book and didn't have to do a lot because, we got really creative on marketing and we could get conversations with people. So be creative. Don't be like everybody else. And do what you can do, right? But try to do more. Don't
yeah,
just
I think
evolve.
you can stick to what works and you can be as less targeted, more machine gun approach on the volume side, less sophisticated. And, we would have, a sales pipeline and stages, and we'd move them along as they got more qualified. Obviously, we were getting renewal dates, calling them back on renewal time, right? Obviously, that works, okay? And then you can get more sophisticated as they're coming up. We call it the Glengarry list, right? Even today, Glengarry list, people that we quoted in years past. Do we want to revisit them? How much were they worth? They're now in a pipeline month by month. I know in March, there's $300,000 of potential revenue that month of people we visited that we want to revisit again. Let's spend some money on those people. Let's recheck the notes, because anytime you don't get an account, we want to take notes on it because we're going to forget when we revisit it next year. Having the gatekeeper, knowing who we got to go through, who are the key decision makers, all this good fun stuff you need to have documented because we're going to want to get it later. But again, in the volume game, don't get so sophisticated. It's going to be more of a numbers game and dials you're tracking. You got to get a system where you can do the dials, you can track the actual connections, not just the connections, how many conversations, right? Because connect is the person maybe quick, and then after 30 seconds or more, it's a conversation, and then how many closes, right? And so each different stage is important, and you know what it takes to get to a meeting, okay? And you can optimize in between. And then, like I said, Craig was talking about, he's more sniper approach, like the pictures he has in the background there. He was taking them, having a professional artist create them and send them to targeted people that they already had conversations with and they pre-qualify, right? Craig, talk about that for a second.
On large case management, we identified, John talked at the beginning, our top 100. So we had identified our top 100 and we set about to learn, who the key people were. And then we would reach out and develop a relationship with the gatekeeper, because otherwise you weren't going anywhere. We'd send them gifts. Somebody found out, they were Chicago Cubs fans. So we went online and bought some tchotchke that was part of the original stadium. And here's a piece of the stadium seat, just something to go when you call, they want to talk to you because you're fun.
It's I call it guilt tripping. They have to take the call now because they feel guilty because you gave them something that's of important. It's not a shitty tchotchke. Craig is spending money here, and it's more targeted where you put some thought into it. Somebody sent me cigars one time for my birthday when I was in Atlantic City, and the front desk called me down for something. And it was cigars. They're cheap shit cigars, probably. I don't even remember at the time, but that I took his call next time, right? Even though he had no business. And so, little things like that. If you
It
get
doesn't
something,
take much.
Yeah, don't take much.
Because nobody's doing anything. The average broker follows up twice and then they quit. 79% of all business-to-business sales end up in no change. And I bet in healthcare brokerage, it's maybe a little bit higher. And so in B2B sales, 80% of all sales are made between the 5th and the 12th contact. And guess what? If you're the only one following up like that, being consistent and persistent, you're the only one they're going to remember other than the incumbent. And now it's just head to head. Those are good odds.
Yeah. Hey, look, we're getting short there. We want to keep it to 20 minutes. We're a little over, but hey, do your research on the bigger accounts. Be friendly, be respectful to the gatekeeper. Speak like an attorney, speak like an authority. Use psychology, words that don't trigger sales resistance. Use words that kind of short circuits their brain to get through. Okay, if you can use referrals, names, drops, whatever. State your purpose clearly. Have a script. Be persistent. Call at different times, and you'll have some success. But measure it, right? The numbers are what's important. Measuring it and seeing if you're getting better. Have a system. There's a million CRMs out there, cheap ones that can do this. Hook it up with a call system, a lot of integrations. If you don't know how to do it, just go on an Upwork or Fiverr, and you can hire an expert to put it all together. Open your wallet, okay? Stop being cheap.
Invest in yourself, please.
Yeah, and congrats to you and have some success.
Yeah.
That being said, hey, thanks for joining us.
Hey, and if you're going to be a lawyer or have a lawyer attitude, right? Be Harry. Harry, what was the guy's name? The character on the law firm, right? In Chicago, right? So he worked with Jordan and yeah. Well, my point is, if you're going to be a lawyer, then learn to speak like a lawyer and learn how to be laconic and perspicacious. Okay. So if you can get away with that, then you do it. But otherwise, dumb it down.
See you next week. Same place, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Heads Up Advisors. Thanks for joining us.
Later.